David, please tell us how the Garlic Festival came about.
Well, we're standing in New Church now, and about 25 years ago, the village school needed some additional equipment, and I think the head teacher, it was his idea to try and have some kind of village thing that raised money, and they tried to get everyone in the village involved and did that successfully. And one of the people in the village was the garlic farm. The garlic farm has always been separate from the festival. The festival, as I say, was run by the local Sports and Community Association very successfully for about 20 years. And I think eventually everybody just felt that they'd accomplished all that they'd set out to accomplish, and thought perhaps it was time to give it up. So several businessmen, including Colin, the garlic farmer, and Nick, who runs Island Marquise, all thought it would be a good idea if it continued. Other people, local authority, council, thought it would be a good idea because it seemed to be a very successful community event, popular with locals and visitors. And we discussed it for a few months, looked at ways of making it happen, and in the end decided it would probably need to be more of a business, but with still a heavy community involvement, because someone ultimately would need to take the risk if it were to lose money. And eventually, after lots of discussion, I was the person who agreed to take on that potential risk. The first year was successful, and that success fed the success in subsequent years, I think. And people obviously enjoyed putting it on, and they enjoyed the fact that they'd made it successful. I think over the years they've it grew because it was successful. Word of mouth is always a powerful thing, particularly on the island, and people will recommend their visitors to come along to the Garlic Festival. That, I think, is still happening. Since we've been running it, I think we've substantially increased the quality of the music entertainment. There is an astonishing array, dazzling array of wonderful foods, cooked as well as raw ingredients, if you take away and scoff when you've got a private moment. I think it's just really terrific, but it's that blend of arena entertainment, family entertainment, and the stage with music that means you can come along, have something for lunch, take some food away, and also be entertained. I think that's really what makes it what it is. Local sponsorship is very important to us. We try as hard as we can to make sure that the majority of the food and produce sold is from local suppliers and local sources. It's a very, very important marketplace for some of the island's food producers. Local food, which is one of our cornerstones, that has become in recent years particularly on people's minds. People are much more interested in local produce, and the media tend to be quite interested in that, so that helps too. And garlic is quirky, so that gives us our USP. And we speak to most of the national food magazines. We speak to people like Saturday Kitchen, where the Garlic Festival has the odd mention. Any kind of TV food programme, we tend to try and get them all year round. This is not just in the weeks ahead. Same with the local, with the national media, food magazines. They're always looking for something to talk about. Garlic, as I say, is slightly interesting and quirky. People don't associate it with England necessarily, and being certainly not necessarily the Isle of Wight. So the two things give us something to hang our hat on, as it were. As far as transport is concerned, to and from the festival, we always involve Southern Vectis. Southern Vectis usually do a special fare from anywhere on the island to the Garlic Festival. They also provide take the hassle out of parking and walking to the festival, because they drop you pretty much at the gate. They work, as we do, very much with Whitelink, who are a good sponsor, and they again put it in their magazine, make sure that people are aware that it's coming up. And we have a substantial bike rack facility, so we try and encourage people to cycle to the event too.
What percentage of the visitors to the festival would you say are local, and what percentage come from the mainland?
Last year we did some visitor surveying, and we reckon the split was about 50-50. The Isle of Wight Council are very supportive of the festival. They help us with things like the bike racks, and the various departments of the council. You know, there's a great deal of, they get a lot of bad press with their red tape and bureaucracy, and quite frankly the volume of form filling is pretty daunting. My worry there is that it would put off other people from doing major events. But in reality, all the departments, from the Fire and Rescue Service to the licensing department to the leader himself, David Pugh, they have always been very, very supportive of the Garlic Festival. The licenses are obtainable. You just have to be sure about what you're doing, and I think the licensing people quite rightly need to be reassured that with fairly large numbers of people visiting what is still an open air site, that you have contingency plans and that you've thought through some of the likely or potential problems. Thankfully we haven't had any, but you know, we are very much aware, and as an event organiser, that, to be honest, among other things, is very much at the forefront of your mind. We are undoubtedly living in difficult times, where perhaps people would have been generous with a little bit of sponsorship or help here and there. That tends not to be the case. I think you need to be focused on that all of us have perhaps less disposable income. We haven't increased the price, the entrance price at the Garlic Festival for some years, and we've done that deliberately, unwillingly, but deliberately, because we really need to believe that people can afford to come, and if they don't come, then we would regard that as a failure. So we've tried to keep the cost of admission low. And that's a tough decision to make, because of course in real terms that means the income's declining. And I know that with some of the other larger events on the island, you know, tickets are much harder to sell than they were, and inevitably one needs to keep that in mind when you're thinking of your strategy. One of the joys for me, and I often wonder if other people notice, when the Garlic Festival is in full swing, and everyone's having a good time and they're gazing at the stage, or they're looking at the arena acts, or wandering in and out the marquees, looking at all the arts and crafts and all that stuff. Sometimes, if the weather's kind, I look at the backdrop, which is absolutely stunning. You know, you couldn't make it up. It's just unbelievable, and I do think, you know, provided I'm at the stage of the weekend where things seem to be going okay, I do think, you know, it's a privilege to be doing it. And you know, I do think the best island events certainly are, you know, the island is the backdrop. As far as the future's concerned, well, we never stop thinking about it. In fact, sometimes I wish I could think of something else, but the Garlic Festival tends to preoccupy me. We travel around constantly looking at other festivals, and you know, constantly take I suppose a gamble with ours, just to make it different each year, and rather than, the last thing we'd want is people saying, oh yeah, well we went there last year and the year before, well let's not bother this year. So I think you've got to constantly reinvent it and up the ante, to be honest, to drive people to come back again and again.